Hey everyone, a very warm welcome back to the channel. Today we are discussing the question number 14 from the chapter of AOD, monotonicity and maximum minima. The question is asking us to find the range of f of x if f of x is defined as a function, greatest integer function of negative of 2 power x plus 2 power 1 by x, and it is given that the domain of the function is negative numbers from minus infinity to 0. So the maximum time allotted for this question would be 25 minutes, and ideally you should try to do it within 11 minutes, and it is quite an amazing problem. So I would highly recommend you all to give it a try. So I hope you all have tried it out. Now let's have a look at the correct solution. So the answer to this question is surprisingly just one single element, which is minus 1. So the range is just minus 1. So f of x is identically equal to minus 1. So concepts and formulas used are pretty standard. Method of critical points and sign scheme we should know. Derivative, if it changes sign from negative to positive, then it represents a point of minima, we should know. And derivative less than 0 implies or indicates that indicates the decreasing nature of function f of x. Now let's see how to actually solve the question. So putting in a few values of x like minus 1, minus half, you will, etc., we can lead, it would lead us to the conjecture that probably f of x is identically minus 1, right? The reason is, if you find f of minus 1, that also comes out to be minus 1. If you put f of minus half, if you find, that also comes out to be minus 1. So if you put in a few values, you might be able to observe that greatest integer of that quantity always is coming out to be minus 1. So let's just claim or have make a conjecture that f of x is identically minus 1, which is possible if and only if the expression inside of the greatest integer, if it lies from minus 1 to 0, right? The reason is, if you want the greatest integer of anything to be exactly minus 1, it should obviously be greater than equal to minus 1, but strictly less than 0, like minus half, minus 3 by 4. Then only it is possible for it to be to have a greatest integer of minus 1 for all x less than 0, because domain of f is given to be negative numbers. Now clearly this inequality is going to be obviously true, because 2 power anything is always going to be positive, this also positive. So positive number with a negative sign obviously would be negative or less than 0. So no doubt about this inequality. Now how do we deal with this second inequality? This is the only inequality that we are now concerned with and we have to prove. So the other inequality will become this inequality, which we are calling as inequality number 1. The reason is, I have just transposed this to the left hand side. So obviously this inequality becomes as the inequality number 1. Now how to prove this inequality? So let's just assume this function to be g of x. Now if this is what we have assumed, then obviously we would need to find the derivative of this. The reason is, less than equal to 0 simply means that we have to show that its maximum value would be 0. So as far as maximum or minimum or such kind of inequalities are concerned, the only hope for us is using differentiation or monotonicity and all these concepts. So we are finding g prime x, derivative we are finding, and this is what we are getting. We are equating that to 0 in order to find the critical points of g of x. So if I equate it to 0, this is the equation that I get. The reason is, this will go to this side, and out of this x square, one of the x I have cross multiplied and taken it to the left hand side. The remaining thing remains on the right hand side. Now, unfortunately, x into 2 power x is not 1 1 in the given domain. Otherwise we could have directly said that x equal to 1 by x, right? Because if this is let's say h of x, then h of x equal to h of 1 by x is this equation that is written. But unfortunately this is not a 1 1 function, so any conclusion from here wouldn't be possible, and hence this method fails. So then what to do? So then comes the correct method. The method would be t equal to minus x we need to put. Since x is obviously negative in the domain, t would obviously be greater than 0, because negative of negative would be positive. So the inequality number 1 would become this, because I have just put x as minus t, right? So this is the expression that we are getting, and I can now write it as 1 upon 2 power t plus 1 upon 2 power 1 by t. Then I'm taking LCM and getting this quantity, which I have to prove less than or equal to 1. Cross multiplication that I can do. So look, we are saying this inequality will be true if and only if this is true, which is true if and only if this is true. And then what I'm doing is, I'm just bringing this portion to this side. Okay, so let's call this a, let's call this b, and let's call this a into b. So what I'm doing is, I am bringing this thing on the left hand side. I am transposing it to the right hand side so that it becomes minus a plus b, and then plus ab is already there. And this we want to prove greater than or equal to 0. So what I'm doing is I'm just adding a 1 to both sides, and this can easily be factorized as 1 minus a into 1 minus b, or a minus 1 into a minus b, which is precisely what I've written. And this one also I have brought or transposed to the left hand side, so that this is the inequality number 2 that we are getting. So what we are saying is that inequality 1 will be true if and only if this is true, which will be true if and only if necessary and sufficient condition. If this is true, this will be true if and only if this is true, and this will be true if and only if this final inequality number 2 is true. So if we are just able to prove that inequality 2 holds, then our job is done. So let us just define h of t to be this quantity, right? This function we have assumed as h of t. H prime t we are going to find, it comes out to be this function minus this function. It is very basic. We are just using product rule and chain rule to differentiate this. So once we differentiate, we now wish to find critical points of h of t, obviously, by solving for h prime t is equal to 0. So if we do that, ln 2 and ln 2 will get cancelled out, and this goes on the other side if we are trying to solve this equation h prime t equal to 0. So this is the basically this is the equation that we are getting, that this thing is equal to this thing, this entire thing, right? So and ln 2 gets cancelled. But now comes the best part, or something that we should be able to think, the most difficult part probably. And that part is that one of the t's we cross multiply, right? So on this side, what will be remaining? So what we are trying to basically say is that I am dividing by 2 power 1 by t, and I am dividing by 2 power t. Okay, so let me just explain once again what is being done here exactly. So this we are dividing it by this quantity, right? So that it becomes 2 power 1 by t minus 1, 2 power 1 by t minus 1 upon 2 power 1 by t upon 2 power 1 by t, no problem still here. And we are also dividing by this quantity. So here it becomes 2 power t minus 1 upon 2 power t, 2 power t minus 1 upon 2 power t, right? Now what we are doing with this t square is, I am letting one t remain here only, which is precisely present here also in equation number 3. But the other t I am cross multiplying, and that I am writing as 1 upon 1 by t, because it can obviously be written as 1 upon 1 by t. So that's what I have written it as. Now if we define p of t to be the function 2 power t minus 1 upon t into 2 power t, equation 3 obviously becomes p of 1 by t equal to p of t. The reason is, if this is p of t, it is very easy to observe this left hand side would simply be p of 1 by t. Everywhere where we had t, it has been converted into 1 by t. So that's the reason why this is what the equation becomes. Equation number 3, p of t equal to p of 1 by t. Now if we find p prime t, then it obviously comes out to be this quantity. I have just applied the quotient rule and nothing else. So if we apply the quotient rule, p prime t comes out to be this quantity, and then we can just cancel out a few terms, like 2 power t can come common and 2 power t can come common, and it can cancel out one of the 2 power t's from the denominator. So on simplifying and rearranging, this is the expression for p prime t that we are getting. It is very easy to differentiate. Absolutely simple MOD principles we have used. Now, p prime t, we are easily able to observe that the denominator is positive, right? Because t square is positive, 2 power, anything is positive. So we are now going to consider just the numerator of this function, which we are calling as q of t. So let's just consider this function. So it is easy to observe that q prime t comes out to be this quantity. We can just differentiate it, right? Derivative of this would be ln 2, and its derivative would be 2 pi t into ln 2. So ln 2 comes out common, and this is the quantity that we are getting. But since t was greater than 0, 2 power t would be greater than 2 power 0, which is 1. So 1 minus 2 power t would be less than 0. So this is a negative quantity. Ln 2 is obviously positive because 2 is greater than 1. So this product would obviously be negative or less than 0 because of this being negative. For all positive t, this is going to hold true, right? Now, that means qt is a decreasing function because its derivative was less than 0. But if it is a decreasing function, then for all positive t or t greater than 0, we can say that qt would be greater than or less than q of 0, because it is a decreasing function. Basically, sign of inequality will get changed, and that's precisely what we have done here. So q of t would be less than q0, but it is very obvious to have a look that q of 0 would come out to be 0. The reason is 0 into ln 2 is 0 and 2 power 0 is 1, 1 minus 1 is 0. So q0 is actually 0. So qt actually comes out to be less than 0, right? But if this numerator comes out to be negative or less than 0, it means that p prime t would also be less than 0, because its numerator was less than 0 and denominator was anyway positive. So that's the reason why negative upon positive becomes negative again. So we can say that p of t is a monotonically strictly decreasing function because its derivative is less than 0, and thus 1 1, because any monotonic function is always going to be a 1 1 function. So the equation 3, p of t equal to p of 1 by t, would imply that t is equal to 1 by t. The reason is, for t greater than 0, 1 by t would also be greater than 0. So t and 1 by t are both in the same domain, or in the same value, or in the same interval in which for which we have proved this entire thing, that p of t is a 1 1 function. So since t is greater than 0, 1 by t is also greater than 0. So p of a equal to p of b would imply a equal to b, since it is a 1 1 function. So that's the reason why we have been able to say that t equal to 1 by t. In place of 1 by t, had it been minus 1 by t, then we couldn't have done this, because then it would not have been greater than 0. And 1 1 we have only proved for numbers or arguments inside the function which are greater than 0. Okay, so that's why I'm emphasizing this point, that in the interval or domain where we have proven it to be 1 1, there only we can apply that property, right? So t equal to 1 by t is what we would get. Cross multiplying t square is equal to 1, t equal to plus minus 1, but obviously we are only going to consider t equal to 1, because we are only interested in considering t greater than 0. So that is precisely the reason why we can say this is the only root of h of t. Now what is h of t? So here it is, h of t, I think we have defined here. So this was h of t, right? So basically what we are saying is, the reason we are able to say that h of t would have exactly t equal to 1 is the only root of h of t. So rather we can actually say that t equal to 1 would be the only root of h prime t actually, right? Let me correct this. Here we have h prime. Why is it the only root? Because we had actually set out with this equation only, right? H prime t equal to 0. From there we had obtained the equation number 3, and the equation number 3 we have been able to show would only have t equal to 1 as its root. So h prime t would have only one root, which is t equals to 1. And now what we are going to do is h prime 2 we are going to find. Why are we finding h prime 2? So look, when we are going to draw the sign scheme of h prime, we know that it has got only one root, which is 1, right? So between 0 and 1, we'll try to find its sign anywhere. And from 1 to infinity, we'll try to find its sign somewhere or anywhere, right? Whatever sign comes at that point will remain throughout the interval, because that is the method of critical points, right? So we find h prime 2, that comes out to be this quantity. And on further simplifying, this becomes this. Root 2 is approximately 1.414. So 13 into that quantity would give us a quantity which is easily greater than 16. We can easily verify that 19.2 something we'll get. So this is a positive quantity. So since at 2 it is positive, so throughout this interval, h prime would remain positive. Similarly, h prime half we find, which comes out to be this quantity, which easily we can see is going to be less than 0, because this is going to become 16 minus 13 root 2, the complete opposite of what we had earlier obtained. So this is going to be negative here at half. So throughout this interval, it is going to be negative. So that's why the sign scheme of h prime t is going to look like this. So with this in mind, we can easily observe that h of t would attain its local as well as global minima at the point t equals to 1 for all t greater than 0. The reason is, first it was decreasing, then it becomes horizontal, and then it continuously increases. So obviously 1 is going to be the point of not only local but also global minima for t greater than 0. So thus we can say that okay, one more thing now, h of 1 is 0. Why is it 0? So the reason is that this was h of t, right? This was what we had defined, h of t. So if you or not this actually, just after this second inequality. So if you just put in t equals to 1, what are we getting? 2 power 1 minus 1 into 2 power 1 upon 1 minus 1 minus 1. It easily you can see and observe that it comes out to be 0. So 1 into 1 minus 1, it is 0. So since h of 1 is equal to 0, what can we say? We can say that h of t would always be greater than equal to 0 for all positive t. The reason is the function h of x or h of t would attain its minimum value at t equals to 1. So whatever this value it is, any other value would be greater than or equal to this. That is the definition of minimum. So that's why we can say that h of t would be greater than or equal to 0 always. And this is precisely where we have proved, where we have been able to prove that we have been able to prove about inequality number 2. This inequality we have proven because this is h of t greater than equal to 0 only, right? So that's what we have proven. But this will be true if and only if the inequality number 1 is true. And if this is true, that would imply that this original claim or conjecture was true. And thus we can say that since this quantity or the function inside of greatest integer always lies between -1 and 0, the greatest integer value would always be equal to -1. And thus we can say the conjecture is proven. So quite a roller coaster of a question, I would say. A lot of things we have to think about, and amazing techniques going on in this question. So I really hope you all liked it. Make sure you like the video. Comment down below what more you would like to see next. Share it with a friend. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all in the next one.